I hated people deciding my fate for me. Like, I'd worked really hard through this career, done all the, ticked all the boxes, always strive to like achieve expectations and all of that crap. And then someone just going, oh, you don't fit this box, we're going to put you in that box. And I was like, based on what? 90% of what I will tell, what my team will tell, what any good safety person will tell a small business, even a big business to do, is not that much different what a business coach will say. Systemize, set standards, set rules, set non-negotiables, get KPIs, get dashboards. It's exactly what safety is trying to say. The problem is, what you've just said is exactly what it is. The perception of safety is not Gucci. It's boring compliance that stops us doing what we do. The legislation is actually not like that at all. It's really reasonable, it's really practical. And all it is about is having the ability to be able to demonstrate that you've reasonably managed risk.
Hi, it's Chris from Talent Unboxed, and today I'm delighted to be joined by on the podcast with James. Now, James has a really interesting business, how he's rebranding safety in the workplace. He's also got an app, and he's also runs his own podcast channel where he advises businesses and gives lots of great advice on health and safety and all the topics surrounding it. So join us on today's episode to see what he's got to say about his space. So this episode's with James McPherson, that is from a business called Risk Fluent, health and safety consultancy based out of Wellingborough. Thank you for coming on Talent Unboxed.
Thanks for having me, mate.
You're welcome. So tell us a bit about you. Let's start that off, because you are a busy guy, and I was quite fascinated with some of the stuff that you've been doing, which is why I was keen to get you on the podcast.
Oh, cheers, buddy.
There's
a fly that's literally just entered.
We've got a little friend. Tell us about you and what's going on in your world right now.
Sure. So my name's James. I run predominantly a company called Risk Fluent, dominates most of my time, which is a health and safety consultancy. And then that's pretty much where everything started. So I started safety, I think it's 16 years ago now-ish. Which we can dive into the career if we need to, if you want to at one point. But that started through a recruitment agency, actually, in Kettering.
We have our uses.
Yeah. I always remember the day I don't know how well you know Kettering, but I used to live and work in a pub called Hobson's Choice, just off Odeon, which has been demolished now. And I'd left the pub and I was bouncing through a couple of jobs. And I was walking down the hill and you go over the bridge where the Park Hotel is, one of the pub over the train bridge. And a recruiting agency rang me up, and she was like, I'd known her because I was mad hunting for jobs. And she was like, I think I've got a job for you. I was like, okay, cool, what is it? She was like, quality environment, health and safety assistant. I was like, what the hell is that? And she was like, it pays well and it starts on Monday. I was like, cool, I'll see you there. And that was it. That was the start of my career.
Start with health and safety.
Yeah, that was literally it. Prior to that, I was basically like a teenage layabout, if I'm honest, mate. Everyone assumes doing what I do is quite analytical. It's quite a little bit legal. It's very technical, engineered, and also like a bit of psychology sometimes. Everyone's like, oh, you've been university and all of this stuff. I'm like, I don't have any of those uni stories or anything like that. I moved out when I was very, very young, and was just a layabout for a long time, and just fell into this. And to be honest, it probably saved my life. I reckon I've not been a very good person. I don't think I'd have been a criminal, but I just think I'd have been like a bit of a nothingy kind of person.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
So that was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So you were, how old were you?
So I must have been, if I'd have just left, I reckon it might not be quite 16 actually, thinking about it. If I'd have left the pub, I reckon 21.
Okay. So 21, you got the call from the agency. The brief was very vague. Mm-hmm. You went into the job.
Yeah.
And obviously decided that you liked it.
Yeah.
Because health and safety, if we're being completely honest, is not overly Gucci, is it? It's not something that, in fact, in a lot of businesses we work with, health and safety is considered a bit of a blocker with stuff being able to happen, or, it's one of those necessary evils. It's very important, but ultimately it's not what naturally people seek to be going into.
Yeah.
So, which obviously you fell into it, like you said, but what was it about it that you loved?
So I actually do think it is quite Gucci.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it's phenomenally interesting. I think I've definitely got a bit of a screwed up brain in that I love variety. I couldn't stand doing the same thing all the time. So I like a lot of variety, but I also love to like learn and get into like my wife was saying to me a couple of weeks ago actually, like if she puts like a YouTube video on while she's doing the kitchen, it will be just crap because she wants to like just switch off and just whatever. For me, it always has to be like learning something, whether it's business, safety, whatever it is, legal. It's always learning something or a hobby or whatever. And I think in my career, there's so much that there's just an endless list of things you can learn. But to answer your question, why kind of like stay was probably because of that. Was also because of like I'm also quite stubborn, and there is this perception of safety. I remember an old boss of mine, not the first boss that I had under safety, but probably the second. He was like, "Oh, we're doing our job right if everyone hates you, James." And I was like, "No, I can't do that." And I was like, "I'm going to probably leave. I'm not going to carry on this career if that's the way." But then, and I still use this to this day. I use it, call it Marcus's law. So there was a guy on the shop floor called Marcus. He run Coex2, or the Coex line actually, which was co-extrusion. They made bubble wrap essentially, and Marcus, really sound guy, team lead for one of the shifts, and was chatting with him. He had an incident, so that's why I was talking to him, and we had a really bad claim culture in that place. So I was like, "Oh, I bet I'll get a letter from you for your claim." And he was like, "Why?" I was like, and he looked like proper perplexed by what I'd said, and I was like, "Oh, I think I've offended him or something." And he was like, "I love it here. Why would I claim? Ruin that relationship, ruin all the friends I've got. My relationship with her. It's just a little accident. I don't need a free holiday to Tenerife." And I was like, that's interesting. And that kind of made me think to over my career that actually if we probably focus more on like just people enjoying work, liking work, and having positive relationships in the workplace, safety can be a good driver for that, really good driver for that, because we have a compliance aspect where we're protecting the business, but then we also have this people aspect where we're protecting the people. So we can actually bring the two together really quite nicely if clients, businesses, whoever allow us to do that. The problem is what you've just said is exactly what it is. The perception of safety is not Gucci. It's boring compliance that stops us doing what we do. The legislation is actually not like that at all. It's really reasonable. It's really practical. And all it is about is having the ability to be able to demonstrate that you've reasonably managed risk. And that's all we need to do. Now that can become really technical. It's not common sense. Common sense is what everyone says. It's not common sense. It's really technical. It's quite hard sometimes, but I think it's just a really exciting. I think it's a really exciting career, and it upsets me that so many people don't like it. I'd love to go to schools and get them excited about it, but
we'll come on to that. Because I think that leads it into what you said a minute ago about your bosses. Did your success in your first role was it an ultimate reaction to how your boss treated you, being new into the space?
100%. I joined Sealed Air, and my boss was a man called Jack Althorpe, who still works in safety at the moment. He's an auditor for one of the biggest ISO auditors. And he had this whole thing set up. He was one of the first, I think, in the UK to achieve all 3 standards or something like that. And he was in the news and all of this stuff. And Sealed Air was quite big in Kettering. It was like one of the best places to work in Kettering. So they were quite a big outfit. And he just run this whole department himself. There was a guy I knew him called Stephen who did health and safety. And I was technically a quality assistant. So I just went on the shop floor, got bits of bubble wrap, took it to the lab and did some testing, and that was it. Which I actually thought was pretty cool as well. And I remember taking the job, and then Jack was just proper relaxed, really open and honest, and was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I'm probably going to be a copper. Like, I like a good scrap." So I thought, yeah, I'll be a copper. And I was going through that thing, and then that it kind of it fizzled out. A friend of mine was a big name in the police force in Northamptonshire, and he was like, it's more of a recruiting policy issue. So he's like, you're probably not going to get in. And I was right. He was right. I didn't get in.
Oh, so you tried?
Yeah. I went through like a load of tests. I did loads of interviews. Got a certain way through. I can't remember how far through. And then they just said you were unsuccessful. And I was like, oh, okay.
With
cool.
no feedback?
Not really, no. And then later on, a guy called Bob, who was a friend of the family, he was quite senior in the police force, and he was like, it was more of a policy thing at that time as to what they were trying to recruit was not people like me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool, fine. Went back and told Jack, and he was like, well, why don't you try safety? When I put you through this as a career, he was like, I think you'll be really good at it. And he was like really nice. And in my life, without getting too deep and having to lay on a therapist's sofa, it was probably one of the first people that were really nice to me. Like I don't really have a solid family background. It was the first person that was quite encouraging, that said, I think you'd be good at this. I think you could do something quite good. And I was like, I've never had that before. So I just went for it. And he gave me an opportunity. I went, then Stephen left, who did health and safety. And I was like, stubbornly, I've committed to this career now. So that's it. I want Stephen's job. And then Stephen left and I got Stephen's job. And then after that, I was like, right, I want Jack's job. I didn't get Jack's job. A man called Trevor got Jack's job. But I got on really well with Trevor as well. And then after that, just kind of bounced around a couple of places because I wanted to learn it in many different industries. But yeah, Jack was 100%. So much so when we started Risk Learning about 2 years in, he was auditing one of my clients. And I've randomly got a phone call from my client being like, I got the auditor here. He says he can't continue with us because there's a conflict of interest because he knows you. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, his name's Jack Althorpe. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's mad. And then later I messaged Jack and I was like, all this stuff I have and the client that you've done, I probably wouldn't have it if it wasn't for you encouraging me in the beginning. He was a really nice guy, proper sound lad.
That's cool. I think there's a lot of businesses that are getting better at that now. But,
yeah, I agree.
You know, probably 15, 16 years ago, like you said, I reckon was probably that turning point where businesses started to value onboarding new staff and the importance of it.
I agree.
Because you don't tend to hear that those kind of stories.
Yeah.
Especially inspiring ones that have led into you now having a successful business in something that literally turned out from just a really quick phone call with a temp agency saying, can you start here on Monday?
Yeah, literally.
That's a really nice story. So you obviously, like you said, you moved around a couple of bits, a couple of places to get some further experience. What made you decide to start on your own?
The simple answer is I was at risk of redundancy 4 jobs in a row. And I was like, screw this. Everyone says, oh, you're more secure in an employed job. I was like, clearly not. I was, the complicated answer, I suppose, is I was always destined to work for myself. Even when I was a kid, I remember saying like, oh, my uncle's done quite well as a builder, self-employed, nice little LF Builders business, and done very well for himself. And he was always my kind of like, I want to achieve what he's achieved and be him. And in my head, doing that was being a business owner, but I kind of didn't know what a business owner was. Like I just was, oh yeah, I'm going to own a van one day when I was a kid. And then that evolved into like, oh, understanding this is what self-employed looks like. This is what a limited business looks like. Then I was made redundant like 4 times, or well, at risk of being made redundant 4 times in a row, but I ended up moving on each time. I hated people deciding my fate for me. Like I'd worked really hard through this career, done all the, ticked all the boxes, always strive to like achieve expectations and all of that crap. And then someone just going, oh, you don't fit this box, we're going to put you in that box. And I was like, based on what? Like you're a new boss, or I just didn't like it. So I was like, screw it, I'll do it on my own. But there was pre-existing context to that, and I'd actually started Rebranding Safety, which is the podcast and YouTube channel, about maybe, how old's that? 7 years. So maybe about 3 or 4 years prior. And that was picking up traction. And we were getting some interest, and people were asking us to do some work. So I also had a little bit of a safety blanket there that there was a bit of work.
So the podcast came first?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I think that's really interesting. And for people that haven't seen your videos, describe them for us? Because I think you've found a real interesting spin on safety, and the messaging around safety, but you actually make it quite fun.
Okay, yeah.
Just coming, but Ben, circling back to that, that earlier point about it not being overly, sexy or.
I can't. Many people have asked me to describe like what is it. I'm like, it makes me sound phenomenally arrogant, but I'm kind of just me in that. I don't really take much serious. Like, I'm always just kind of like try and get to the point. What's the practical discussion points? What's a practical application of this problem? What does it really look like? And that to the day is probably the core of everything that we do. Is like, what does it actually look like in real working day to get stuff done? And that's probably what we try to do with Rerun and Safety. To be honest, though, in the beginning, I was just an angry young man. That's all I was. I was just angry, had a massive chip on my shoulder. Still got one, but it's a little bit smaller. And it was just, I don't know, I had a point to prove, whatever. So we actually started to try and write blogs first.
Well, that was the thing, wasn't it?
That was the
YouTube,
thing.
It was a blogging channel.
Yeah, exactly that. It said, I can't spell. I don't know where to put a comma or anything like that. So I wrote
anyone?
No, but I didn't have AI back then. Do you know what I mean? I had the wife. So I think I wrote 3 and I gave them to Sherry to prove. And it took her like 6 months. We hadn't done one. And I was like, this ain't going to work.
Yeah.
And then I went on a dog walk. I was listening to a podcast and this guy, they were interviewing a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who everyone knows now.
Yeah.
And they were like, what's the most exciting piece of tech at the moment? And he said, Anchor.fm. You can basically download it and do a podcast in like seconds. And I was like, oh, okay. Got home. I don't know why, but didn't even take my coat off. Sat on the sofa. Strangely enough, leant over the arm of the sofa, like here. I don't know why. And recorded the first podcast, and that was it. And then we just kept going and kept going. But the style
so you
of
didn't
it,
give it any thought to like set
equipment.
You just was a man with a phone
and hands
ranting.
Free. That's it, yeah.
Literally.
And that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, we've got a couple of cameras now, we've got like, the Podcaster Pro and all of that stuff, like, but it's still very grassroots, very like, shoelace kind of budget.
Authentic.
It's just, it's very me.
People like authenticity, don't they?
Yeah.
I think it becomes the more natural you are with this stuff. Like, let's look at LinkedIn, right? Yeah. People use that platform a lot. And I've noticed recently that you've started to do quite a bit of video content on there as well, haven't you?
Trying to improve it, yeah. My phone keeps going off.
That's all right. And you do get, there's a different mix of people, I think, on like LinkedIn. Yeah. And I think there's the same with YouTube or podcasting. The ones that are really good are the ones that are authentic and that sometimes don't really care what other people are thinking. Yeah. It's more about delivery of the message. Yeah. As long as it's not, discriminatory or going to cause anyone real upset. If you're getting a message across, people like different points of view. Sometimes they don't act like they different points of view. Yeah. But I've been listening to podcasts for a couple of years now. Typically I go to the same kind of ones, but I like learning and I like hearing other people's points of view. Yeah. And I think what I really like about yours is, you do simplify what people can be using these things for, or, especially in the SME world, which is where you really focus, isn't it? It's that SME market. And I'd say that's probably the same for us. Yeah. There's a lot of these businesses out there that they know where they want to go and they've got a plan of where they want to go, but they don't necessarily how to implement that plan, whether it comes to, staffing strategy, whether it comes to health and safety strategy as they scale, or whether it comes to marketing or whatever. So there's a real place for those podcasts. And I think what I don't like about LinkedIn, coming back to the first point, is that some people use it as just a platform to rant and have a moan. And I've seen some posts, and I've had to unfollow certain individuals on LinkedIn because it seems like there was a double message that they're slagging off the competition.
They succeed by bringing others down.
Yeah. And I can't bear that.
I literally had that last week.
Yeah.
We had a relatively, I wouldn't even say it's a big name. Like, he does a lot of posts on LinkedIn. I think he's got a small to medium sized kind of consultancy. Same industry, same kind of. It's basically competition, right? Yeah. But like, I've never really got a vibe off of him that we clashed or had an issue. But he'd messaged me a couple of times about some videos. One of those people that work a bit of a word salad, lots of words, and the points hidden within the words somewhere. And a little bit of like, also a bit of the old guard, I think, in that his posts are always, like you've said, they're either sarcastic, or, which I'm very sarcastic, but they're pointed sarcasm. Like they're at someone, they're at a backhanded comment or whatever. Anyway, I did a video. We clipped it up using Opus clips. Great product. And it just slips up all of the videos and we put it out. And it very much like, just get content out. Like, I don't overly proof it that much. Like, I'd be a marketing manager's worst nightmare. I'm just get it out. But none of the videos are wrong. Like, I don't mind putting the clips out because we proofed and managed the video quite well. Like, I've wrote the video, I've recorded the video, we've sent it to an editor. They've done it. I've gone through it like 2 or 3 times. I'm happy to go out there for the clips. I'm fine with. Anyway, this goes out, and basically I'd said, if you do a good risk assessment, 100% it's going to make your business better. 100% it's going to stop stuff happening. And the risk assessment will be one of the first things a HSE asks for when they turn up on site. It'd be the first thing your insurers ask for, so on. The comment had been like 100% is a bold statement. I was like, it's not a bold statement, it's a figure of speech. Like, I'm not saying scientifically 100% it will make you safer. Like, what I said was 100% as a figure of speech, but okay, fine. If that's, you want to go in on that, that's fine. And then the other thing was like, oh, and it won't be the first thing they ask for. First thing they ask for will be like physical evidence or something that's going to expire. I was like, right, okay, again, just a figure of speech. Like, not the point I'm trying to get across here. What I'm trying to do is get SMEs to go, oh, maybe a risk assessment is a good thing and not a bad thing. Maybe it's not just a compliance tool, which ironically is what he called it. This guy like attacking me on LinkedIn was like, it's a compliance tool. It's not going to make us safer. And I was like, but that's the problem, that you think it's a compliance tool. It's not. It's a planning process. It's a discussion. A risk assessment can be me and you having a discussion about how we're going to get something done. What we think is the document. That's what we think of. But actually the value is the discussion and planning something. That is a risk assessment. So that's the conversation. That's the point we're trying to get across. But he was going in on these like 2 minor points. And it was just to bring us down, to bring himself up. Which I was like, maybe it's that, maybe it's not, maybe it's a bit nitpicky, a bit pedantic, whatever. And then on Bank Holiday Monday, I was out on a bike, stopped off on the coffee shop to have a little coffee, go on LinkedIn, have a little look. And he's done a post pointed exactly at me, saying that we're spreading misinformation, but without tagging us. And I know 100% it was targeted at us, because it's like the following day after we'd had this interaction. And it was like spreading misinformation and all of this stuff. And then all the comments were like, yeah. And I'm like, I know you're talking to me, but frankly, I couldn't care less, because I know I'm right. Like, there's, yes, if I wanted to spout science, there's science behind it by the HSE, by several people that say, if you do this right, it will make your business better. Well, I don't need to, because my target audience is SMEs, and frankly, I couldn't give a crap about science. They just want, what do I need to do right now? Yeah. But LinkedIn is a bit of a toxic space, which is a shame, because when I started Rebound Safety, it was a beautiful space. It was this like ecosystem of people just sharing ideas and collaborating, and it was amazing. Yeah. And I loved it. Now it's just like you just said, it's just a horrible space.
I think, what, I don't tend to get involved in those kind of commentaries. When I see or notice them, I just kind of, because the people that have written that want that interaction, because it drives the brand more for them, right? And so the less I engage with it, I think the better it is for LinkedIn in general, to be honest. But I just unfollow them. Yeah. Because the naysayers are the ones that are just going to make the biggest issue. Yeah, that's exactly what I did, unfollow them. Yeah. But we've had loads of that. We had a guy threaten us with legal action on YouTube comments, which was great. I was on holiday when that happened, actually. He was like, this video is legally incorrect. And frankly,
just straight up illegal that you're telling people to do this. And I was like, it's not. So I remember being on holiday and I was like, I'll just double check. Like, I'll just double check. I haven't said something wrong, maybe worded it slightly different. And all I was doing is saying that it was a how to do a fire assessment video, but it was, world's slightly different now. It was like, I don't know, 5 years ago, we made that video. Yeah. And the legislation still hasn't changed. The legislation says a competent person. It doesn't define competence. There's no legal requirement to have someone like me do a fire assessment. In theory, anyone could do it. To the point where after Grenfell, not a couple of years ago, the government put out guidance for small business owners to do their own fire assessment, which is exactly what our video was doing as well. They're doing it. Let's get them to do it in a good way. That's what we were trying to achieve. And yeah, this guy who worked for a relatively chunky fire assessing consultancy said our legal team have noted this video, put like a proper massive comment. We are going to take it to court, blah, blah, blah. And we've got a long time ago, and I remember being on holiday and quite nervous.
Yeah, of course. Those kind of things are going to make you...
That could have shut us down overnight.
Could have.
But
again, it could just be a keyboard warrior that's...
It was, yeah. It was 100%. We never heard anything. I came up with a response back to him, and then was like, I'm confident that, and said, based on these bits are legal, we're not wrong, but I'll see you in court. And we never heard back from him. But we've had loads of that. Safety people don't tend to like our channel. Well, that's a lie. There's a divide. The older safety people don't. The younger safety people do.
So tell us then, obviously, outside of you having just being somebody that wants to have a rant, as the kind of messaging on your... Why do you think it needs rebranding? Because I thought it was quite an interesting name for it.
Because I think if I was going to put it in a one-liner, like, we miss the opportunity of good safety because we go in with a preconception. So we go in with this, just health and safety, just tick box, just compliance. We're missing the opportunity of what it could actually do. 90% of what I will tell, what my team will tell, what any good safety person will tell a small business, even a big business to do, is not that much different from what a business coach will say. Systemize, set standards, set rules, set non-negotiables, get KPIs, get dashboards. It's exactly what safety is trying to say. But they're focused on operations. We're not focused on finance and sales or anything like that. But all we're doing is saying what your business coach will tell you about finance and sales and marketing, we're telling you to do exactly the same in operations. But you can't hear that because all you hear is, health and safety gone mad. And 100% there are things in health and safety that I won't name them, but like there are things that are just a waste of time, but you can't not do them. But 90% of the time, what safety is trying to do is just make your business quite good. Instead of being like, I don't know, I've recruited Steve because he's been doing roofing for 20 years, so he must be good. Like, he's got 20 years experience. That could be 20 years experience of someone who does the job really crap. You're not telling them how you want ACS roofing, for example, to the way that they do it. You're not telling them the way that Paul wants a job done, Steve wants a job done. You're letting them do it the way that he wants to do it, and then you're going to moan at him when he hasn't done it that way. Systemize it. And that's what safety is trying to get you to do. And just plan. So I was saying before we recorded that the inflatable park that was going to, at the weekend, was shut down because it was too hot. A risk assessment would have stopped that happening because you'd planned it, because that's a foreseeable risk. Like, what do we do if it's going to get really hot? Well, that's a good question, actually. What do? We just shut down. But then if I'm in a planning meeting with the boss and we say, we'll just shut down, and then the boss goes, hang on a minute, if we shut down, will you lose all this revenue? That's a good point, actually. Safety's job is to go, how do we not shut down, but how do people's feet not burn when they're on the thing? There's loads of things you could come up with. Do we wet it every 20 minutes when it's over 20 degrees? Do we get some fans on the side? Do we let people hire shoes or sleeve covers or whatever for like 50p? Do you get some more revenue? Great. That's what good safety is, just planning and managing risk. That's all it is. But people miss that opportunity because they just go in with this attitude of like, it's just compliance.
It's interesting because I probably feel like that. I feel like that sometimes.
Not on your own.
And I think that we've when it comes to ourselves, like providing temporary staff into third parties' businesses, terms of business in our world means that they're under their direction and supervision once they're on site.
Yep.
So we don't have to worry about that so much. However, we still have a duty of care to the staff working there to make sure we've done the necessary checks ahead of time, knowing that we're not putting people into a high risk environment, right? Which in itself isn't always easy, because you're then asking for information that businesses sometimes push back on and say, well, why do you need that? Why they're not always open to giving it to you.
Yeah.
So how does your business in that circumstance then can advise and support? Because part of the podcast theory is that, or the message that I want to get out with these podcasts, not only to help people trying to look for work in particular fields or whatever, but to help SMEs with how they can make better changes into what they're doing with their businesses now. So if you were to bottle that up, what one piece of advice would you be giving to an SME now that they could perhaps take from larger organisations either that you've worked or partnered with, and some of the stuff you've learned in that space?
I think if you're a smaller, medium-sized business working with big businesses, know your responsibilities and your duties is really helpful. Knowing where, like, what's your legal duty, what's your contractual duties, and where do the two kind of line up, if they do, so that if that big company starts to push things down to say, like, you should be doing this, when actually that's their job, you can kind of confidently hold fast. But then in kind of contradiction to that, but not contradictory, I'd probably say it's more like that's your foundation, knowing like what your scope of works are, what your legal responsibilities are, what your agreed relationship is, knowing all those foundations. After that is going with a collaborative mindset. I think so many times in business, exactly what you just said, can you send us all this stuff just so that we know you're like you're nice people? Why do you want to do all that? Like, it's just not collaborative.
No.
Like, it's just like, if anything, it makes me more like, why don't you want to send it to us? Like, it's like, do you not want us to care about the people we're placing in your organisation or someone else's organisation? So collaboratively, collaboration is what the health and safety work regs and many other pieces of legislation, I think, actually wants from us, is to work together to deliver a job with multiple businesses that doesn't kill anyone, harm anyone, or anything like that. That's what we want to do. Except what we are so focused on is that stuff at the foundation level. That's all we do, is we just go, that's not my job, that's your job, or that's your responsibility. And we just shirk responsibilities. We all look like Neo in the Matrix dodging bullets more than like a team working together to deliver a job. So much so that if we do, this is really worse in construction, is one of the worst places for like responsibility arguments, essentially. If we do like any CDM training, which is the regs for construction, we do a little warm-up game of basically a mini version of Traitors. The original version of Traitors is called Werewolf, from a Russian sociologist. We use that. We do it real quick fire, and it descends into chaos because we're trying to make decisions and associate blame with no information. So then, and once we've done it, I'll say, does that remind you of anything? And they're like, oh, the game Traitors, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, does anyone think it feels like a construction meeting, like a post-event or a pre-planning meeting or anything like that? And then they'll all go, oh yeah, good point, actually. It's just finger pointing. So yeah, that's exactly what it's like. So if we can just collaborate, yes, know your responsibilities is a foundation, 100%. But after that, let's go in with a collaborative mindset that we're all just trying to build this building, or we're all just trying to deliver this product, or whatever it is. We're here to collaborate with each other. And I think we'd all do.
And ultimately, there's a customer at the end of that, right? And I think what businesses fail to realise sometimes, and it happens in our space as well. So we partner with quite a few similar businesses because ultimately, if we're supplying a service on site, so there's 2 or 3 agencies supplying staff to the same end user. It's in our best interest as a collaboration to deliver the service because that customer's then going to be really happy. Their customer's going to be really happy, right? So we're in a service-led industry. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
The businesses that fail to see it like that, I think, are the ones that then will drop off. And the only way that they can then potentially feel better about themselves is to have rants on LinkedIn, finger pointing to the ones that are clearly collaborating and doing a good job. And I think if the more of that mindset around that collaboration, it's not about blame. It's about how we can collectively work together to achieve the objective of getting the building built or whatever. I think with more people, like I feel like I don't know how I'm trying to say it, but I feel like as time goes on, defense seems to be the first stance a lot of the time in these conversations.
100%. We're all coming in from a position of like vulnerability that like, or someone's going to steal some idea off us, someone's going to bad mouth us or whatever. So we just put our guard up straight away. I get it. I've been there. I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't need to be like
it doesn't help. But I think if you're confident in what your responsibilities are, which is why I would say don't just be shirking responsibility, but know your responsibilities. Know their responsibilities as well. So like if in my world, that is a big part of what we do is duties and what are the legal duties. And construction is such a good example because they have so many clearly defined duties of so many different people across this whole project. And you will get like the principal contractor or designer trying to put their job onto a smaller contractor or something like that. You will get insurance and safety teams trying to say, well, you need to send us this and I'm like, no, you don't need to send them that. What you need to do is manage the risk, yes, but it doesn't need to be this big construction phase plan because that's not your job, that's someone else's job or whatever. So you should know your responsibility so you can put your foot down to go, actually, that's not my job, because you don't want to be spending time doing something that's not your job. But once you understand that, that's when I think you can collaboratively go into a conversation because you know where your line is. If you don't know where your line is, then you probably are going to go in quite defensively because you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I get it with like, say if we get a medium to big size customer and they're asking for more, and because they pay you so much, you want to give them everything, but then I have to say, or my team tell me more than I tell myself, is like, there's got to be a line somewhere. Like at some point they are going to have to say, we are going to have to say, actually, that's going to be extra. But you don't want to say that because they're paying you so much money anyway. But that's the same conversation. It's service level agreement.
I think we are in the culture though, aren't we? And we have the same situation in our set space as well. If you don't ask, you don't get. And asking is, oh, could you just? Yeah. Would you be able to just? Yeah. And you go, yeah. But you've got a chargeable thing that you could be asking. You could realistically be charging for that. But that's where value add comes in.
Yeah.
And I think that, businesses like ours that again are in that service industry, there is a line. Yeah, I agree with your team on that. But there's also 10 other people waiting to be doing what you want to be doing with that customer.
Yeah.
So, and they know that.
Yeah.
So being able to then, the way I see it with our team, I think particularly is, yes, there's some lines, but the reason we've got such a loyal customer base is because we do go above and beyond sometimes, and that is where the real value is witnessed from a customer perspective.
100% agree. I think the catch in my world, not from our services, but our customers, is that like sometimes there is a line in that you could be taking on liability for another company where you might not want to. Sometimes you can. So a good example would be if you're like, let's say a big warehouse or something, and you've used Steve, the local handyman, to just get stuff fixed for years, right? But then the big warehouse gets brought out by a massive brand. That massive brand comes in, they're typically getting rid of Steve and they're bringing in Mighty, who's a massive national FM provider, going to fix everything, right? That's not good for Steve. It's not good for the British economy. Why does Steve get to lose out just because he's a small guy? And they go, okay, fair enough. Like, Steve, send us some risk assessments, some method statements, send us your insurance, health and safety policy, your modern slavery policy. And he goes, oh, I don't do any of that. I just put shelves up. And he's a good lad and he should carry on putting shelves up. The business can take on Steve's liability in a theory, and that it's not that simple in the legal world, but they could just manage Steve and be like, look, let's collaboratively put risk assessments together. 90% of safety people, if they hear this, will be like, no.
Are you talking about Mighty taking in that circumstance?
No,
or
the client. So like
yeah.
before we've had this Mighty conversation, we go, hang on a minute, how can we keep Steve?
Yeah.
Or we keep Steve by just managing his risk for him. Because ultimately I think we get so bogged down in this liability conversation that what we forget is actually what we want is someone good, reliable like Steve. So collaboratively, can we just manage the risk? Because if nothing goes wrong, then we don't have a problem.
And that can be on call, will go above and beyond because it's a one-man band.
Exactly.
Do all the things that we've just been talking about.
We want to enable that.
Which you won't necessarily get if you use a national.
Yeah. And the catch is that this legal responsibility, liability is really important to understand, because when you do understand it, you can make those decisions to say, actually, I would rather keep Steve, and yes, we might be taking on a little bit more liability unofficially because he doesn't have risk assessments and we're writing them for him, right? He's still going to have to get his own insurance and stuff like that. But like, okay, he hasn't got health and safety policies, but like, he's just going to chat GPT it.
Yeah.
So like, is it not better that we just collaboratively put something together to help him do what he needs to do and manage the risk? So I'd say like, yeah, understand your liabilities, understand your responsibilities, because then you can collaboratively work together to get the job done in a nutshell, and you'll enable Steve to go above and beyond. But then you're kind of also as the client going above and beyond, but you're managing the risk.
Yeah.
That's kind of the balance, I'd say.
Okay. I like that. So let's talk about Risk Fluent then. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. So you, after the podcast, you started getting inquiries. You wanted to do the consultancy work. And then you kind of fell into it, and you're doing it with your wife, right?
Yeah.
How are you finding that?
Yeah, good. Honestly, like I think everyone goes, "Oh, it's hard, isn't it?" Like me and Sherry.
I couldn't work with my missus.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I can work with my wife. You're a strong guy. I can work with my wife. To be honest, I think she probably struggles to work with me more than I work with her. We get on really well. We are like best mates. Without getting too soppy, 90%, if I do anything, I want to do it with her. Like, she's just
nice.
the best. And like, whilst Jack was the Jack I spoke about in my first job, he was like the first career person to say, you can do it. She was 100% like the foundation that I didn't have. She built it. Like, so everything I've become is it's a cliche, but like it's 100% because of her. Like, she's enabled everything I can do. I couldn't write, I couldn't read. She went on, she did a London to Paris bike ride. This is really cheesy. I don't even know if I want to continue this story, actually. She did
You've got to now.
I know, right? I'm like, shit. She did this bike ride, but long story short, the business had done it. It wasn't great culture where she worked. And she ended up essentially being on her own on this bike ride, and she wasn't really a cyclist back then, and now all of a sudden she's cycling for 5 days from London to Paris, and she's doing it on her own. So I wrote her a letter for every day that she opened up. I worked out the route. This is where you've been. This is a little bit of factor, and it's proper cheesy, but like I did that anyway. We found them when we moved house like a couple of years, it would have been longer than a couple of years ago, like 10, no, I don't know. Years ago, we moved into Edinburgh. We found these letters, and I read a couple, and I was like, "Oh my god, who wrote these?" Like an illiterate 1-year-old. And I'm so much better now because of her, and that's just one good example of like I couldn't.
But teamwork makes the dream work. Right?
100%.
Again, you say cliche, but it's true. We're a husband and wife team. And I know the business wouldn't be anywhere near where it is now without Helly's involvement. Or in fact, I'd go as far more to the point of Helly's driving force behind the business. She set the business up in a partnership with some other guys at the beginning, and it was just Helly, a desk and a phone and a computer, with no client base, and she just believed in herself in order to create this business that gave working parents a space without judgment if they needed to nip off to do school runs or kids pantos and all the stuff that we have to juggle as parents. that there was a space for them to do that, because 15 years ago, or pre-15 years ago, I'd say that those kind of behaviours were frowned upon. Oh, what do you mean you need the afternoon off to take you?
Yeah.
You know, can't you miss it? And so she was very keen on building that kind of culture, and then I joined subsequently on. We weren't married then, but yeah, as a team, you know, like you said, there isn't anyone I'd rather be doing stuff with than with Helly, whether it be within the business or outside of the business, quite frankly.
Yeah, same.
So it's nice to find that.
I find it's easy to work. Don't get me wrong, there are challenges in that, like, work is 24/7 for us now.
Yeah.
Like we're running 2 businesses and a podcast and YouTube channel from our own relationship and our own household. Well, we've got the office now, but like ultimately it's our lives. So that does take its toll sometimes.
But how do you balance it? How do you balance, like, okay, we're now in home world, not work world.
Yeah.
You know, do you have rules around it? Because I think it's interesting for people listening to this. That, you know, because there'll be many people in this scenario where they work with their partners and aren't finding it that easy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wonder whether there's, you know, we've tried many times to have rules around it.
Yeah.
We've tried to have, okay, let's have an hour at the end of the day to kind of catch up on the day.
Yeah.
Make sure, check in with each other, make sure you're both okay, and then it's home life.
Yeah.
But like you, it becomes 24/7.
Yeah,
you're in the service industry again, so it isn't easy.
No.
But I do think that once you find that rub, then there's probably nothing more special than being able to achieve that with your partner.
Yeah. I think I'm not. Sherry's a lot better than me at it, but then we've got, like, I'd say unofficial roles, but they're not. They're kind of official roles in that, like, she pretty much runs the household and then does her jobs at work. But then I work a lot more, so I suppose it's those traditional roles in a sense, kind of. But she is probably enabling all of the family stuff, enabling me to focus on the business so that she can do what she needs to do, comes in and does her bits and bobs, which is mostly all the finance stuff. And that is essentially, she's like the only person that's running, like, she's like the FD for 2 businesses, and she does that like pretty much 3 days a week. Like, it's phenomenal. And then I never have to worry about the house either. She does all of that. And maybe I don't know, I'm chewing my words a little bit because you get a bit nervous on, like, LinkedIn and social media when you talk about, like, gender roles and all of that stuff. It's like, that's what she wants to do.
I think it's about being a team.
Yeah.
And playing to each other's strengths.
Exactly. So on the reverse, I'm working so much more in the business to enable her to be able to focus on the house and the kids and so on. But then vice versa, what it has, I wouldn't say all the time, but what it has enabled is us to both be more present when we're with the kids. Or we're with each other even. I don't think we've got it nailed at all. I think we're way off from having it nailed. But we're gradually getting better, for sure. But then,
again, though, I think, you know, just for people listening that want to set up their own businesses or are in the early stages of it, you know, you don't switch off when you run your own business. No. It is very much 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, there are I'm not saying it's impossible to, but if you, in the early years, if you want the business to succeed, it's key that you are kind of you're all in, right? You've got to be all in.
Yeah, 24/7.
And you're wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
You know, you're wearing a marketing hat.
Yeah.
You're wearing the business owner's hat.
Yeah.
You're wearing the consultant's hat.
Yeah.
You're wearing the
HR,
admin hat,
manager,
a
lot. Yeah,
you know,
the list goes on.
And they just keep having to be swapped all the time, right?
All
it's
the time.
spinning plates.
All the time. I do think we've definitely found, like, for me, the ability to be present at home is not necessarily having everything done. It's having everything boxed and organised. That's just my brain. But, like, when we have we have a Monday meeting which kicks off the week. When we have that, it's not micromanagement. It's just we all come in and we all go, okay, who's doing what, where are you going, is this covered, is that covered, yeah, we're all good. Everything's kind of planned, but we're just having a pre-start briefing, if you know what I mean. And then we all say, like, here's the 3 to 6 things we want to try and achieve this week. And then on Friday we send a little voice note, my week went to crap, didn't achieve anything I wanted. And it's not a micromanagement, it's just all holding each other to account. With that little system in place, backed up by, like, I wouldn't even call it like a CRM, it's more just like it's just Microsoft, really, to its full extent, or maybe 80% of its extent. But, like, we use Microsoft Loop. Every customer has a page on Microsoft Loop. All their tasks are in there, and we are, like, religious on that. I'm probably the least religious on it, ironically. But, like, Chloe and Carly,
but admin isn't your strength.
No, 100% it's not.
Yeah.
Chloe and Carly, they're the two, like, advisors / consultants on the road. So they manage the consultant's work, essentially. And we've got Gemma, who's our admin, or that's probably not a fair statement. She's what we call business coordinator, but we call her, like, the glue. She pretty much does everything. She monitors Loop. And that's not meaning everything's done. What it means is I can at any point jump into Loop and I can see where we are. That enables me to then jump into home life. To be like, oh, okay, cool. But then on the flip side, I always couldn't do that if Sherry wasn't doing what she does. Like, she does all the finances, and then I just get the profit and loss once a month, and I go through it and I say, yeah, this makes sense, and all of that. But we're having the meetings to just give us that high level overview. We've got the systems we can go in and check. That's took us 5 years to build in Risk Fluent, and Risk Assessor's probably not there yet. But that is 90% of it is working that out. But then I would also say my most important thing I'd say to anyone that's trying to run a family business particularly, is it's all phases, right? Like, you can have a year, like we're doing really well this year, and it's great, and we feel organised, we feel the best we've ever felt. If we'd have done this podcast a year ago, I'd have been like, we were in the shit last year, and now we're just crawling our way out of it. The year before, I'd probably just sat here and cried. Like, so it's phases. 2 years ago, there was no work-life balance. I was working 24/7 to try and save a business. The following year, the same, 24/7, because you need to recover for the previous year. This year, we've done that, and I can start to find a balance. But in 2 years' time, we might go to crap again. You know, we might say, let's have another war. Yeah, that's what everyone wants. And then, and then we've got a bad economy, and we're back into the thick of it. So I think it's phases. So, like, don't beat yourself up because you're having, like, 2 months where you've worked every weekend, because you'll probably have that. You'll probably have 6-12 months of working every weekend. But then the following year, you might not. So it's phases. So keeping an eye on it is obviously a good thing, but
and I think you've got to have the end in mind. I think a lot of business owners don't think about, okay, what do I want to achieve at the end of this? Is it financial freedom? Is it I want to sell for a big ticket price to a big organisation, or do I just want a lifestyle business? Once you've decided that, I think then you can make the necessary adjustments in order to get where you want to be, because without knowing the end goal, then you don't know what you've got to do in order to get there. Yeah. You know, it's like...
how hard you want to work. Yeah. So if you're like, I want to build something massive, then you're like, you can justify working every weekend. But if you're just trying to build a lifestyle business...
the freedom and the weekends getting the weekends back will come once you've done that deal.
Delayed gratification, yeah. So, but if it's a lifestyle business, you're working 24/7, kind of not a lifestyle business.
It's not really a lifestyle business. Okay, so let's go on talking about Risk Assessor then. Because you started with a podcast, just recapping on this journey. So you podcast into consultancy. Yeah. Then you also got a app. Yeah. Now that you're also trying to manage, so there's 3 different channels there that you're balancing. So how did the app come about, and what's the app there for? Obviously, it supplements what you're doing as a business anyway. But tell us about that. So
to be honest, everything comes from rebrand safety. Everything. Like, there's the best decision I ever made was starting that podcast, coming home from a dog walk. Yeah. So funny enough, so coming back to the previous point, actually, first, Sherry was actually the first person to work in the business. I started the podcast, but we weren't getting paid. It was a hobby. But then we did start getting paid. We got sponsored by 2 companies, and it paid us circa around 30k a year. Sherry had actually left her, like, corporate ops director roles, and she was just kind of bouncing around some jobs in care. I think trying to find herself a little bit more, and like, what she's a phenomenally intelligent woman and really good at what she does, but just hated this kind of like corporate, we don't care about people world. So she went into care, and then we were going on a dog walk and was like, hang on a minute, dog walks seem to do a lot for us. I don't know why. But we were on a dog walk and was like, hang on a minute, if you're miserable in care, we're getting sponsored the same amount of money. Why don't you work in just run the business?
Yeah.
Which at that point was just the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So the first year for her was probably great. All she did was edit videos essentially. But then that turned into Risk Fluent. And then probably about halfway through that, maybe about 2 years into Risk Fluent, at that point it's just me and Sherry. So she's still doing a bit of rebound and safety, but she's now become like a bit of like admin and finance. I'm just consulting at that point. She's doing everything else. I think we would have had Maggie, our first child. I think maybe she'd be quite young. So we're busy. We're really busy. And I'm driving home from a job on a telecoms customer of ours. And to be honest, kind of living the dream. I was really happy then. It was good. We had good money. Kind of didn't realise how good I had it when we just had a couple of retainers, a couple of freelance jobs. Like all the money's coming in and it's just yours. There's no costs or anything. You work from home. That lifestyle business is a really nice little model actually. But I wanted something big. So we kept going. Anyway, a guy called James Boatwright rang me up, who was the founder of Risk Assessor Pro, which is the app that we now have. So he rang me up and he's like, look, I've got this app. We spoke to him a couple of times before because he wanted to come on a podcast and he wanted us to trial the app and all of this. So we knew him as an acquaintance, I suppose. He rang me up. Long story short, I want to give half of the business. I want to get rid of half of the business. I want someone to run Risk Assessor for us. Mm-hmm. And I love what you're doing with rebound and safety. So I think it should be you. And he was like, what do you think? And I was like, 100% the answer is yes. The key point here is I have zero cash. Like this is not something I can give you 50, 60, 100K or whatever and buy in. And he was like, well, we can work out a deal. So we did. We worked out a deal on essentially time, which then screwed the lifestyle balance that we had because I essentially had to sell enough of Risk Assessor to achieve the financial goals to buy my way into the business, if that makes sense. So we were doing that. We were doing really well with that. We had two fundamental issues though. Risk Assessor had not kept up with pace. So it was way behind current tech. Where fundamentally it was a phenomenal product because it was app first, whereas 90% of our competitors in safety tech is desktop, web-based software first. Yeah. We were app first. So everything and still is, everything we build is the app. Does it work in the app? Does it work in the app? What does it feel like on a phone? What does it feel like on a tablet? Mm-hmm. If we nail that, then the website comes later. The problem was that attitude had gone on so long that our website was so outdated and clunky and horrible that we just had a hole at the bottom of the bucket. So we were bringing sales in, which was good because it was achieving my target, but we were losing them at the bottom. So people were converting, but not for long. So we had that problem. James is a really nice guy. Won't follow him at all. I'd say only kind of flaw is his way of the highway. He's got something in his mind that's happening. He was convinced all we needed to do was sell Risk Assessor essentially. So throughout the year, probably two, I think, probably about a year and a bit, was feeding back to James like the app's not good enough. So we need to fix all these problems because we're getting these massive contract opportunities, but they're going, can I do this? Can I do that? This is a bit meh, this is a bit meh. And we're just losing those opportunities. So we need to fix it first because we can't sell it. So I'm selling and fixing. I think behind the scenes, at that point, he was like, maybe this is a bit too much effort because his other businesses in printing were doing phenomenally well. They were flying. He's got offices around the world now, got a massive business, and he's doing really well. To the day before Christmas, 2 Christmases ago, he rang up and was like, I'm out. I'm just getting rid of it. And I was like, why don't you get rid of everything? Just keep a little bit for yourself and we can just, run it. No, I want out. And they give my half to the tech lads, as we call them, which are the guys in India. They built the whole thing from scratch. So that's it. Go away and have a think about it, which in James's world means this is happening. But so I went away And I was like, cool, James wants to do this. Let's have a think about it, blah, blah, blah. We can go back to James in the new year and say, okay, this is our thoughts and this is what we would like to tweak it, whatever. Ideally, we would have liked to tweak some bits, but we get to New Year's Day, got an email from James, the accountant. Hi, James, I'm just changing company's house details. Can you send me all of your details? Blah, 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 blah. Who do you want to own it? You or Risk Fluent or what? And I'm like, oh, so this is just happening. So that 2 week to think about it was Christmas. And that was it. It happened. So at that point, I said to Sherry, like, just leave it, let it happen. Let's just get it. If we own half and the lads in India own half, I think it'll be really good for the guys in India will have just freedom and they'll run with it. But then we're also there to kind of guide and run it in the UK. And to be honest, it's the best thing that happened. Like the lads in India have gone like leaps and bounds. So they're coming to us with ideas which they never did that before. Our relationship is really good now. But in a nutshell, that's how it happened. James rang us up and was like,
right place, right time then.
Yeah. And through the
podcast.
Years of chat in front of a camera and just being angry and moaning about stuff. So yeah, we were lucky in a sense in that we did just get a great opportunity to acquire the business, but it was from years of no work-life balance. So when we did Rebrand and Safety in the beginning, it was, I remember sitting upstairs in my now boys' bedroom, which was the office / recording studio, and family downstairs in the garden, having fun, and there's barbecues or whatever, and there's external family coming around and all of this stuff. And I'm upstairs interviewing some guy from Australia so that we could get it out on the podcast. So like, it is that, like, coming back to the original point, what do people want? They want to work all hours out of the sun. How do we find work-life balance? Sometimes you don't find it. You got to slog it at the beginning, and maybe those opportunities pay off later, and it did for us.
Okay, so what's the plan for the podcast, for the app now? Is you just going to market harder, trying to get more subscribers? Pretty
much now, yeah. So we've essentially fixed all of our problems. We had a huge user experience, UX, as a tech bros call it. Yeah. Just didn't know what user that was like 2 years ago. Yeah. They're like, the UX. I'm like, what the does that mean? So we fixed the UX. We fixed the kind of style, the visuals of it. It looks a lot more modern now. It feels modern. It works. It's so much better. We brought some new stuff in, like dashboards and analytics, which people just love. And coming back to all of the stuff about good safety, that's good. That's the kind of stuff we need. So we fixed all of those things. There are other things that we're trying to bring in. We're probably about 3 to 4 weeks away of an AI being built into it as well, which I think will be massive for us. Yeah. So one of the biggest issues we've had with Risk Assessor is, yes, the outdated feel that we had to fix. But the next biggest issue is 90% of our competitors sell pre-made generic crap, I'd call it, essentially. But they hide it in
templates.
They're templates, but they're not. They're done documents. So, and they sell it. They know what they're doing. They sell it as done documents. But in the terms and conditions and in little bits on the software, it'll say, like, you need to edit this. You need to make sure that this fits your business. Otherwise, it won't protect you in court. But it's not obvious. And the system is built to let you just download it and use it. But then they protect themselves by saying, well, we told you need to edit it. But the client, the customer, the small business owner, they think everything's ready. I'm just going to download this risk assessment for plumbing and send it off and I'm done. And then their client,
everyone thinks they covered.
The warehouse goes, it's approved. So then the small business then gets reinforced that bad idea because that safety team's approved it. The whole system is kind of flawed. We have been clear, we don't want to do that. We want to build a system that makes it easy to do it right, which is build risk assessment properly on the go, on your phone whilst you're quoting a job. The problem is to get you ready to do that, you have to build these libraries and templates in the system. And currently, you do that yourself. Or we do what our competitors do, which is we build loads of generic versions, we put them into the system. One, that's going to take a load of time. Two, we don't really want to do it. So what do? Well, then in comes AI, and we're like, this is really interesting. So we've spent years now training this AI so that it does the right things, it says the right thing. we get the prompt right, which has been hard, so that they come in and it'll ask the client, what do you do? Where do you do it? We get all of their information and it learns about them and all of that stuff. And then we say, like, cool, build me a library of hazards and controls, and it does it. Now, we still have the caveats that you do need to check this, but it's a little bit better than generic crap. So that's next step number one, is launch that, about 3 to 4 weeks away. And ultimately, it's not because I can hear the safety people now being like, AI is not a competent safety person. No, it's not. But what it is an admin generator for these businesses. Yeah. They'll look at it and go, okay, that makes sense.
So a lot of the time when we're talking to businesses that want AI or want to know what we're doing with AI, I came across as saying, when I went to an industry event, that AI it's not going to replace recruiters. There are apps and stuff that are trying to replace recruiters, but ultimately for us, similar to you, I think, in the SME world, nothing will replace a relationship between supplier and partner, or customer and supplier, right?
Yeah.
So AI, all it's doing is changing how work gets done.
Yeah.
So if anything, it's giving us more capacity to do the value work, removing the need to do all of that administrative headache.
Exactly that. And that is what you just said, is like the core thing that helped us work out how to bring AI into risk assessment, because it doesn't build the risk assessment.
No.
The person still needs to be on their phone, on the job, and build the risk assessment. What the AI does is build all the hazards and controls that are available for you to select when doing the risk assessment, which is a bit that people moan about. They don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they're looking at a blank sheet and they're like, what the hell? Technically, all of this apply. And for people like me and my team, safety people, that's really easy to go, no, that doesn't apply, but this does. But for a small business owner, they're like, oh God, or they either select everything or select not enough. So an AI can help build the behind the scenes, bespoke it to like 80%, but the person's still doing the risk assessment, which is our key deliverable that we wanted to do. Is exactly what you've just said. It's not doing it for them, it's enabling them to do it quicker.
It's just changing the way it gets done.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're adding in an AI review. So we've trained an AI to review and give them feedback. So like, you've done your risk assessment, but like, this is not great, this is good, this is really good. Would you like us to make these changes or whatever? So the human is forced to be in that middle process of the creation, but the admin is doing an admin readiness kind of process, and then a feedback process. That's all it's doing. So that's kind of, to come back to your original question, that's step one, so you get that out. But after that, I mean, not even after that, now the job is sell. That's all we need to do. It's ready to sell now. And we're doing all right. We just won a big university in the north of England. They've just come over to the whole system over to us. It's a big old job, but it's
that's great.
It's good, yeah. So
for anyone listening that wants to find out about Risk Assessor, what's the web address for that? So
Risk Assessor is www.riskassessor.net. They can try it free of charge.
Simple.
As a normal, we don't have .com. We can get it. It's a couple of grand.
Yeah.
But I think we'll buy it at some point.
Yeah.
They can try it for 14 days, I believe. So you can try it free of charge 14 days. And then after that, it's £18 per user per month. And then the price per month goes down with the more users you have. But yeah, that's it. We tried to build it like flexible, again, for those SMEs particularly, in that, like, if they've only got one user, do one person doing risk assessments and method statements, you only pay for one user. So like, a lot of our competitors are like minimum of 10 users, and it's going to cost you this a year. And people will still pay it.
Is that because they're aiming again though at enterprise business rather than maybe like SME?
I don't know, because the particular competitor I'm thinking about, their target audience is SMEs, they say. But it's designed, I think, for bigger business. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Again, though, you get, like, I think once that sweet spot's found, I know a couple of apps that have gone on to either sell and make big money, or a couple of that are local even, that have done really well with finding their spot and
Yeah.
sticking to it. And I think that's really key. If a lot of businesses, when they fail, it's because they've tried to diversify into all of these different markets, and rather than sticking to their lane and being laser focused on it. So I think it's great that you're kind of channeling that SME space.
We 100%, like, our personalities fit there, the tech fits there, the consulting fits there. Like, it's more open and honest conversations, frank conversation. I put one-to-one relationships as well. Like 90% of our clients, granted, risk assessors are a little bit different. They've got that's got 500 and something customers, and they're all around the world. So like, we don't know all of them personally, but we did the data on it just as we were doing this big rebrand. 90 something % of our customers are single user accounts, which are small businesses. It's only, yes, we'll look after the people that pay us big bucks because they've got 100 users.
It's nothing, is it, when it comes to
exactly,
or the equivalent in wherever that country is. It's
exactly. But then in the consulting side, 100%, we have got some bigger businesses, but then I wouldn't even say on our model is partnerships, we call it, which is retainers. We've built a whole business around that, and they're all medium and smaller, all of them. I'm trying to think about a couple of big ones, but even then, I would say they're probably fall into the bracket of medium, because we're talking to our person. Whereas, like, I find in the corporate world, of which I was in for a long time, yes, we're talking to a person, but we're talking to a person who's regurgitating policy, and then they're like, well, I need to talk to Steve, who needs to talk to Bob, who needs to talk to the director. And I'm just like, this is exhausting. Whereas 90% of a customer in consulting it particularly, if Carly comes to me and says, blah, blah customer is a little bit, I'm getting a vibe, I could just ring Dave up and be like, Dave, what's the situation, mate? You okay? Like, are we okay? Have we done something wrong? And they're like, oh no, we're just a bit crap at the minute because of this, because of that, because of that. And I'm like, okay, cool. How can we fix that? Like, that is such a nicer relationship. Yeah. I think people say that does exist in corporate. Maybe it does, but like, I just find we get drowned in like corporate crap, of which health and safety is a big chunk of that corporate crap.
I think just talking from our space, I don't think businesses, when they dabble in using a corporate, get the service as strongly as if they used a fellow SME or independent business. We've seen it time and time again where, and we've also had it where we've lost business to corporates that very quickly asked, can we come back? Because it's not working. And it's normally a procurement-led decision based on margin and price that has driven the decision.
Because they've got that economy of scale, right? Yeah.
So they go, right, we've got 20 sites across the country, you only do one, we're going to swap that one site into this provider. We get it all on one price. Right, okay, fine.
We get the same.
And then, a couple of months down the line, local site level of saying it's not working, it's failing, we're missing KPIs or SLA. We need to bring back some additional support, and then you're always, as long as you've kept that relationship friendly, and if you made sure the transition from you to the other business is friendly, then they'll always come back if it doesn't work. But look, we need to wrap up a little bit. So I want to ask you from a job seeking perspective. I want to get into health and safety, or it's a space that maybe because of the variety you mentioned is something that's of interest to me. What would be the one key thing you kind of offer as a route to entry for that space?
As in, like, what qualifications?
Well, just if I'm interested in it, similar to you, right? You had that agency ring you up, offer you a job. You didn't really know much about it back then. Maybe times have changed now. But
unfortunately,
if I wanted to get into that game, what would be the step?
I think if you were kind of in a non-safety related role and thinking of transitioning into safety, the one of the best ways to do it is probably just become like a safety rep or something like that. volunteering to do safety for a local governance council board or school board or something like that. If you're in scouts or something like that, they need to be doing safety. So find opportunities that are not a job to build the skill set up. And then, because the first thing you'll get is, if like we're recruiting at the moment, and it'll be like, well, I want 2 years experience. Now, not everyone will want 2 years experience. Some people will want like no experience or 1 year or something like that. If you can say, look, I'm a 1 year's experience in work, but I've had 1 year's experience doing safety, doing all of this. Even if someone came to me with 2 years experience of doing safety and all of these volunteer jobs whilst doing this job, I think that'll be quite interesting. Because I'm like, okay, you really like this. Like, you really invested in that. And then if I could throw a little caveat of one extra thing in there, that would be what I would do to get the tangible experience. But for me, attitude is the most important thing. It's very easy to slip in safety because you like pointing fingers and you like telling people they're wrong and you like walking around being the police officer of safety. That is a surefire way to get nothing achieved in safety. And you'll also not get a job with me or most people I know, but you will get a job with some of the bigger ones. And you will get a job probably in some corporate places that is how they do safety, but that is a dying art. For me, attitude and work ethic probably is like, I want to see someone that's like, I'm really keen to just kind of be a problem solver and help businesses solve problems, because that is what risk management is, and that's what we're doing. But yeah, try and get some experience doing volunteering and stuff like that, or like an MVQ or something like that. Unfortunately, I find the safety qualification route is poor. I've been talking to a couple of education sectors to try and find ways to improve it. It is private and it is monopolised in a sense, and it is pretty much just one qualification. I think we did have some nice competition, but there was some corporate, whatever you want to call it, naughtiness going on there, and that we lost that person, that qualification, unfortunately. But so NEBOSH is pretty much the only way to get into safety nowadays. You can do it at university, you can do MVQs. MVQs are challenging because you have to be on the job, so you kind of have to get a safety job. And there's some hints of an apprenticeship, but it's not much. And even then, they're private, kind of designed apprenticeship by the employer more than anything.
Okay.
But yeah, volunteer and get some experience would be my top tip.
And then lastly, then, people wanting to understand a little bit more about how they could best improve their health and safety, how do they come across you?
So rebound safety is loads of free advice. Probably don't judge me on my earlier years of videos. Everything is up there. Like I said, I was a very angry young man in the beginning. I think I'm drunk on one episode as well, if I remember rightly.
Even more authentic.
Yeah. I think you can actually hear the glass of rum in the background, like clinking. I think that's an audio only, if I remember rightly. But yeah, rebound safety, there's like, I think 7 years, if not more, of free advice on there. And we are gradually getting back to putting more and more advice out there.
Yeah.
So that's the best place. If you want some help, Riskfluent is a good place to start. So www.riskfluentltd.com. They can drop me a line. We send some free stuff. We've got some guidebooks that we send out to people so you can get a good vibe of how we work. And then Risk Tester we've already mentioned, but that's a nice place to start as well. We don't just work partnerships. We can do like one-off work. We do training. But our core is we are your fractional safety team, as everyone calls it nowadays.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Thanks for coming on the couch and coming on to Talent Unboxed. And I'm sure, as these things evolve, we'll have you back on again. And I'm excited to watch your journey, especially with the Assessor app and all the other great stuff that you're doing. So,
yeah, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Nice one. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.